Hi everyone, I'm Jody Barrows with the Square in a Square. Welcome to our live Wednesday webinars where each Wednesday this year of 2021 we're going to be having a free webinar. We're going to be doing lots of different quilt projects and different demos and techniques. And today we're going to discover and go in depth into the Square in a Square system. Now, I always recommend that you have a notebook for your Wednesday webinars and that you have a page for each one and even put little tabs on them so you know where you're at and keep them in order, because we're going to be teaching so many things. I want you to be able to go back and watch the webinars again. And today is one where we're going to go in depth into the flying geese and the half square triangles and how to adapt other patterns and quilt designs
I need to go get the red phone.
to this technique. So Steve was giving me a message real quick. Sorry about that. And we have lots of different quilts to show you. And remember that you can text your questions to 817-713-2879. And you should write that on some sticky note and put it right there in the front of your notebook somewhere so that you can always find it. That's 817-713-2879. Now, your questions need to be about something that we're teaching. If you have a question about my order or where is a certain video, you'll need to make sure that you email that to Steve at squareinasquare.com. So we want you to be able to get your questions answered quickly, and that's why we have the text number so that we don't have to filter through all of the emails to find those we can get to you more quickly. So it's 817-713-2879. And I love to see your pictures. Make sure you put them on the Facebook page for Square in a Square or the premium page if you're a premium member. Or if you're a Quilt Club Week member, then make sure you put them on Quilt Club Week Facebook pages. So today we're going to start in with option 1, and we're going to be talking about how to make it, how to cut it, how to know about sizing. And the other thing besides your webinar notebook is that we have what we call the option overview notebook. So let's look down here at the demo table. And let's look at what a demo notebook is. So as you go in and make your options, to learn your options, we always say work on your option overview notebook. Now, if you're a Premium Club member, you can go into the Premium Club website and you can get your pages. You can download your pages similar to this one like you see here. You can download your pages free and start putting them in your notebook. If you're not a premium member, then you can go to our website, squareinasquare.com, if you want the pages, and you can purchase them. So as we go through and make the options, then I always say to use a glue stick and put them on cardstock and start building your little notebook and just keep going through the options. Of course, we won't have time today to go through all of them, but we're going to show you the most popular ones, and depending on time, we will go in and show you a few others, but at least the beginning of them. The options are the different triangle units that you get when you take just a simple basic square like this. This is what we call a basic square, square in the middle, strips on the side, and then the different ways you use the ruler to trim it up, you're going to get all of these different triangle units. Option 1 is a square in a square. Option 3 is flying geese. Option 4, half square triangles. And those are just probably the most common ones and the ones that you recognize without me having to show you what that triangle unit is. But the thing about it is that it allows you to be a human and to do the human work, which is the cutting of the square, the sewing of this together, and the pressing. And so you get all of that human element in here, which is not going to be perfect. Then you take the ruler and put it on here and trim it up, and you're going to get nice clean work and perfect points and smooth flat work. And you have the ability to help remove or erase those human elements, which could be errors in your cutting, sewing, or pressing. And that's the beauty of the system. And it's the only system in the quilt world that allows the human to be human and then come in here and trim it up and get the perfect work. So I love that of the system. It's very, very, very forgiving. So we're going to go in and talk about the different products as we use them, but just kind of a quick overview of the main ones. And we have other books and patterns, but these are the main ones. There's 5 of the different rulers. And let's start with this one. This one has the quick and easy book that goes with it. And this is what we call the original ruler. It's the very first one I started with over 30 years ago. And these first 3 rulers are what we call the square and a square rulers, because those are the ones that you can use to trim your basic square and to get all these different triangle units. And during the lecture today, I will use all 3 of these so that you can see them in action. So if you don't have one and you're thinking about getting one and you're like, which one do I start with? It's the original one, and it's the one that comes with the quick and easy book. And then about a year ago, last spring, we added the Grande, the multi-purpose ruler. And this ruler will cut your options that start out with a square in the middle. It will cut your squares, it'll cut your strips, it'll trim up the option. Remember, the option is the triangle unit, and it helps square up your blocks. So it's a multi-purpose ruler. It also helps cut the diamond that goes in the very center here. Now, these are the options that start out, and those are options 1 through 17, and these are the options that we call the diamond options, and they go from 18 to 39. So, a lot to learn today. And then we have the little mini square in a square. And it doesn't just do miniature quilts. It'll make almost every quilt. But it is smaller, so it's more convenient and easy to use in your hand. And obviously, if you're making medium to small quilts, it's better to have a smaller ruler than a great big one. Now remember, it is not the ruler that makes the size of the unit, the size of the block, or the size of the quilt. The rulers have nothing to do with the size of the unit, the size of the block, or the size of the quilt. All of that is determined over here in the fabric with the size of your square and how many of those you put together to make whatever it is that you're making. Now also today we're going to show a little bit of the 4-patch and the 9-patch. Now when I look at a quilt, what I see is I see multiple squares coming together, like 9 patches, 4 patches, so those would be odd numbers of squares or patches, even numbers of squares and patches, and that's what the 4-patch and 9-patch do. A 4-patch will not make a 9-patch, and the 9-patch will not make a 4-patch. But when I look at all of these different quilt designs in the quilt world, I see single squares, multiple squares even, multiple squares odd, and then all of these different triangle units. So the square and a square rulers make your triangle units, and the 4-patch and 9-patch make even numbers or odd numbers of squares or patches. So with this system and with these tools, that's all you need to make everything. I've got quite a few different quilts to show you. You don't have to have all of these different stuff to make all of these quilts. And we're also going to show you how to take any design, any quilt design, and adapt it over to the system. So let's start out with just the basic square. Now here you can see I have a square in the middle with 4 colors that are all the same. Here you can see how I've put different colors on. And then I want you to see here how I've gone in and used my scraps. So these were just scrappy pieces left over. It doesn't have to be a nice clean rectangle shape or what we call a strip on the side. You can take all of these other different scraps and put them on and let the ruler do the work for trimming them up. So here's one where we just went around it 1 time, 2 times. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. That's an option 2. But we didn't go back in and resize the strips. Of course, they have to be a certain width so that you have enough fabric to make what it is you're making. But if the strip is wider, if it's just a scrap, you don't have to go back in and resize it to put it on, because when we put the ruler on here to trim it up, it's going to trim off all of that excess. So let's get started with a ruler and see what I'm talking about. Now today we have a lot of new people in our webinar that could be new to square and a square, or even new to quilting in general. And the thing that I love, I've been doing this for over 30 years now, and the thing that I love about what the system does, it allows any quilter, you know, below average skills, or great skills in the quilting world. It just helps move them all up the quilting ladder of success, and it allows you to expand and go beyond what you've normally been making, and even help you improve upon what you have been making, because I believe that every quilter out there can make any quilt and can be able to make all of those masterpieces that they see and that they drool over. So let's look down here at the ruler and let's get started with our trimming. So we have our square in the middle, we have our strips on the side. And on the original ruler I'm using right now, I've gone to the 90 on the ruler. And you can see where the first set of lines come together and touch, there's a tip right there. And from the tip to the edge of the ruler is 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to move this point on the 90 into the point of the fabric square. And I'm going to have these lines coming off of the 90 come right down over those seams. So I just push it into the square and make sure it's nice and sharp in the point. Go down the seam. I have a grid line that goes through the point. It tells me that my human element is pretty good so far, so my cutting, sewing, and pressing, I don't have to worry about it too much on this one. I did pretty good. So I've made my first cut, and there's my 1/4 of an inch off of the point. I didn't have to cut triangles and put them on the side. I didn't have to worry about centering my triangle on the center of my square and hoping that when I did all that, I would get 1/4 of an inch. It just automatically happens. So let's move around and let's do all 4 corners. Now as I go around, I want to look where I've already cut. And I want that fabric underneath the ruler to be nice and neat and parallel with the lines. Not that it lines up perfectly with a line, because these sizes can change and radiate out under the ruler, you know, to smaller and larger. But I want to look at the fabric and the lines and make sure I'm staying nice and neat and parallel. Now you'll notice my corners are slightly blunted, and that helps remove excess fabric and those seam allowances. And as I go around, I want to check on all of the sides I've cut, of course putting the 90 in the tip, lining it up and through there, but the outside has to be neat and the seam allowance has to be correct. After I start trimming, now I'm on the 3rd corner. If these in here are not lining up perfect, I have to choose this to be as square as possible. And I have to keep my seam allowance correct. Those are the 2 most important things. If these aren't perfect in here, that just shows a little human element going on. Now, if my pieces I trim off are big enough, I'm going to save those and put those on another square. So you can see how you get these little triangle pieces. These are kind of little. I probably wouldn't recycle those, but as your block grows and gets larger, these can be larger. So look at this little piece here. This is a large one of these cut off of another one that I was working on, and so you can just put it on. It doesn't have to be the rectangle. So here you can see another one here and here, and it has to cover the square. The length of it has to cover the square. So this is an option 1 right here, a square in a square. So look how easy that was to do. You're just going to put your squares and your strips together, and we don't do this one at a time. When we make our basic squares, we kind of have an assembly line to do this. So let's look here at how I would get that very basic square. So I would put my strip in the sewing machine and pretty side up, pretty side down on the square, put them together. And you can see how I just start sewing down one side of that square. And so we call that side 1. And you want just a little space in between. Then I would put another strip in the sewing machine and I would turn it around and sew down the other side. So here you can see what that looks like. See how it's sewn down each side. It looks like this. And when you put it on, you don't have to open it up. So if my strip was in the machine, I don't have just a single strip, but Play Like This is just the single strip I'm putting it on right here. See how I just lay it down and sew it on the side, and you don't have to open this up. Just lay it down on your strip and sew it down and keep it nice and neat. And here you can see what it looks like. Then you're going to cut it apart and press. When you cut them apart and press, they're going to look like this. And you can see how I just start it in the machine and start sewing, put my strip on so that it covers the square. It doesn't have to go all the way to the end, because remember, this end here is what you're cutting off. And so if I have a lot down here, then that means I have more that I trim off. So make sure your strip only covers the square. So if your square is 4 inches, it has to be at least 4 inches, but I make it just a little bit larger because I don't want to make sure that it's perfectly on here. I want to slap it down and sew it on. I don't want to have to take a lot of time doing that. So I make it just a hair bit bigger. So if my square was 4, I would probably make them anywhere from 4 1/4 to 4 1/2. And you can cut them just with your scissors, use your scraps, or cut them at the rotary table to get what we call the short strips. So side 1 and 2 are long strips, and side 3 and 4 are short. And the long strips and the short strips, this is when you're working with fabric cut from either fat quarters or from selvage to selvage. So, you know, sewing side 1 and 2 with a long strip is faster than using little short pieces. But if you have, you know, all these little short pieces left over from other projects, then certainly you can use, you know, I'm going to say a pre-cut short piece from a scrap on all 4 sides. But generally, you're going to have some long strips, and this is how we work with it. So you sew it all the way down side 3 and then turn it and sew it on the other side. So you would turn it in your machine, put another strip on, and sew it down. And remember, you don't have to open these up. It's not going to get cut when you sew that 1/4 of an inch. So just leave them folded together, put your new strip on, and just keep going. And there are some other videos that you can go and watch on Facebook or YouTube that actually show show the sewing of the basic square. So now that we have the option 1 made, let's look at it in some quilts, because you can make some beautiful quilts just using option 1. So we'll come back to him in a minute. So when you look at this one is called Village Square, and it's one of our patterns that you can get off of the website, squareandsquare.com. But let's look at what we've made in here. This is just your option 1. So here's your option 1, and there it is in the corner. In the corner, in the corner, in the corner. Plain square in the middle, and then what we call a split rail or 2 rectangles in the middle here. So this quilt is put together in what we call a 9-patch fashion. So here you can see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you're going to put an option 1, the split rail option 1, and then you're going to do split rail, plain square, split rail, and then repeat the bottom as the top. We did a really wide sashing on it, and this quilt can be made so quickly using the option 1 in it. Now before we move on, Steve, do we have any questions that have popped in? Now, most, all of these quilts, especially the ones up here that I'm showing you, are fabrics that are on our website. And we do have a fabric sale going on. It started the 1st of January and it goes until the 20th, which I think is Wednesday next week. And we will be, in our Wednesday webinars, we will be using and having kits available for all the different things that we're showing. But right now is the time that you can get our new florals at a discounted price. You can get free shipping on a $150 order, and we do have some discontinued fabrics. I'm not sure what's left of the discontinued fabrics, but we did when we started the sale. Now this next one is the same block. It's the same 9-patch setting. It's got a plain square in the middle, but we've switched out one color right here in the corner.
Those checks are really pixelated.
Yeah, the checks kind of pixel funny in there. Okay, so here you can see, here's your option 1, but notice how we switched up the color. We did the dark in the middle and did one strip that's dark, and the other 3 strips that went around the outside edge were light, and we did the dark in the middle. And so it's the same, we just switched up some color, and it looks totally different. Now this one is called Tumbling Blocks, and Tumbling Blocks is all made with option 1. A tumbling block quilt, if you're new to quilting, a tumbling block quilt is diamonds and Y-seams and set in pieces, and really a hard quilt to make. But now that you know the option 1 of the square and a square system, you can make your tumbling block quilt. So let's find that option 1. So in this row, every row, they're just option 1s. So here is a row. The black is the center square, and the colors of green and purple and orange, those are the strips that we put around it. So they're all sewn in rows. But I want you to notice that the seam here in this row, see how it goes through the center of that black square in the next row. And then we have a seam, and then we have the black square. So it's the setting of them kind of offset of each other that help create this diamond shape and helps create the tumbling block. Now the tumbling block quilt can be found in the very first book that we call the reference book, which is book 1. So that is this one right here, and we're going to come back, we call it the reference book, Square and a Square reference book, book 1, and this is a book that's going to have your first 17 options in it. It's going to tell you how to do all the sewing and trimming and cutting. It's going to have the charts so that you can change sizes. We're going to come back and use the charts in the book. It also has over 30 quilts in it. This is one of them. And then the quilts are broke down into multiple block sizes. So you've got over 50 block sizes in that book also. So that is an option 1 quilt of the tumbling block. And your red one is a option 1 quilt. Now the next one we're going to do is option 2. So let's look at what we're going to do. We're going to take our square. Are we down here on the demo table? Okay, so we're going to take our square that we've trimmed up, and just like this was a square with strips on the side, now this is going to be our square, and we're going to put new strips on the side. So you can see our square in the middle, and these triangles were the first row that we put on and trimmed up. Now we've put the second row on. And of course the strips must get wider and longer because your square is growing. This square is not the same as this square. It's larger. You're going to trim it the same way. So look how I'm going to take the 90 and put it in the corner or the tip of the new square. I'm going to line up those lines on that new square. Hopefully my grid line will go right through the point, and I'm going to trim it up on all 4 corners just like we did before. And that's my option 2. Option 2 means to sew around your square 2 times or more. So this is the second time. And it's really cool because you can just keep sewing around and around and around. So notice how that big piece how it just all trims up nice and perfect for you. So there's really no reason to go back in and resize that particular one. So here's our option 2, where you sew around it multiple times. And let's look at this new one up here. This one is called Disappearing Star, and it is in the reference book. And you can see how we started with our big square in the middle, and we sew around it 1 time, trim it up, 2 times, trim it up. So you can make these any size that you want. Have a big square here, kind of a focus point square or focus point fabric, and just sew those, alternate those, and sew those rows together, and put your border on, and you have it all complete. Now this next one is a really cute, sweet little quilt. So let's look at it down here on the demo table. And I want you to see how we just started with our square and just all scrappy. Put the first row on, trimmed it up. Second row, trimmed it up. Third row, trimmed it up. And then whatever size your block turns out to be with whatever sizes you're working with, you can put whatever you want next to it, whether it's your little embroideries. This one is called Basket Collector, and it was a pattern on the website. Is it still on there? Yeah. So it's a pattern on the website. You can go. Is it one of the free ones?
I think it might be.
It might be one
Type
of the.
in the word free when you get there.
Yeah, go to the search bar and put free in there, and you can see which patterns are the free patterns. And so just a great way to go in and use up your scraps, all those little leftover pieces and tails you've got from other projects, and it just turns into beautiful, beautiful quilt. Easy to do. Now let's look, before we go any farther, let's look in our reference book and let's go to the charts. So if you happen to have your book, go to page 34 and that's where your charts start. So let's think about our option 1. So here in the option 1, this has a cut edge on it. So that means that it's a cut size. It's the larger. So let's say that it measures 3.5. Then that means it's going to be sewn when you put it into the quilt and there's no raw edges. It'll sew down to a 3. So when you come over to the chart for your option 1, at the very top of the very first column, it says what is the sewn size you're looking for. So if you're wanting a 3-inch, then you just run your finger down the column, find the size you want, and move across horizontally. And the next column tells you what size to cut your center square and what size the width of your strips need to be that you're going to sew around that size of square. And then up here at the top of page 35, we have our option 2. So it shows on the chart how you can sew around it 2 times. So if I want an option 2, that's 6 inches, so that means 6 inches. It'll have my square in the middle and the first row and the second row, and it'd be 6 inches sewn, so that means 6.5 with cut edges. I just come in here, it says what is the sewn size, I find the 6, and I move across horizontally. It tells me what size to cut my center square, what size to cut my first row, and what size to cut my second row. And of course those are the width of the strips, because you know the length by whatever size of square it is in the middle. You know that's your length. So there's your option 1 and 2 chart, how you can make these any size and just start building and playing with your quilts. Now let's look at option 3, Flying Geese. So in this quilt, this is one of our most popular patterns over the last probably 25 years. It's called Americana, and it just has the simple 8-pointed star with a strata strip, and this one is a kit that we have on the website as well as the green one I just showed, and it's called Americana. We've used our new transcontinental train railroad fabric in it, and we've just used Flying Geese for the points, a bigger square in the middle, and a bigger square here in the corner. So let's look at our Flying Geese and how simple it is to make option 3 Flying Geese. So to make your Flying Geese, everything starts out with this square in the middle and strips on the side. I'm going to grab a different one with different colors because I think you can see it better without the check on there. So to make our Flying Geese, we're going to do 2 corners with the 90, just like we did here on all of these. We did the 90 and we left the 1/4 of an inch. So put the 90 in there, just like we did before, leaving the 1/4 of an inch. And we're going to do it to 2 opposite sides. So there's one side, flip it, and do the opposite side. Now my little sample has different colors on here, so you could see how you could get a scrappy star real easy. Now on the other 2 sides, we have to trim these corners different because we're going to cut it in half and get 2 Flying Geese. So what we need to do on this corner and this corner is we need it to be sharp. We don't want that 1/4 of an inch off of the point. So I put my 90 in there, and we call it the 2-step because you're going to go 1, 2. You're going to step it over 2 lines. Make sure it's nice and sharp in the point. You won't have any of this hanging off. Down the seam, come back to the point. You have a new grid line. Keep it square where you've already cut and trim it up. Now see, that's a sharp point. And that's what you want because we have to move our points and create a seam allowance in here where we did not have one. And you'll see here in just a minute, if you're totally new to this, how we're going to get 2 Flying Geese. So go to the 2 sharp corners, the 2-step corners, and just put your ruler right through the middle of those sharp corners and trim it up. And there's your 2 perfect Flying Geese, just like that. So of course, if you wanted a star, you would make another one and you would have your 4. Now some of you may think, oh, where are those points going to be? You've lost your points. Where's your seam allowance? So I'm just going to put my ruler on here, and you can see if this was a seam, this black line being a 1/4 of an inch, and if this black line was a seam being a 1/4 of an inch, you can see right there is where my point is. So if we hadn't trimmed these 2 corners sharp and we cut it in half, then we're actually going to lose our point when we sew it back into the quilt. So you can't take an option 1 where you have the 1/4 of an inch on all 4 corners and cut it in half, because you'll lose your 1/4 of an inch when you sew on both sides. You've got to create a seam allowance here in the middle where you didn't have one, and you have to move that point kind of up your seam a little bit like we've done here by doing that 2-step. So once you learn how to trim leaving the 1/4 of an inch and how to do the 2-step, that's basically all there is. Even though we have all of these options that go up to option 17, you're only going to have to know how to have a square in the middle with strips on the side, how to leave a 1/4 of an inch, and how to do the 2-step. That's basically it. Everything else I'm going to show you with the square is just those 2 trims and doing it in the right location when it's time to do it. So here you can see your flying geese here on the points. So this makes this star very fast and very simple and very easy to do. When I started quilting 40 years ago, this was my favorite block, and it seemed like no matter how hard I tried, held my tongue just right, stood on my head, no matter what method I did, no matter what technique, I could not get smooth flat work and nice sharp points and have all of my work be so nice and neat and clean until I started doing it this way. In fact, the option 1 and the option 3 were the very first 2 options that I did and that I started working with in my patterns and designs to help remove that human element and get more perfection and speed, more accuracy. Okay, so let's look at this little quilt here. Let's put some of this together that we've learned, because all of these different shapes go together to make every quilt that there is out there. So when you look at this one, let's just look. I have a couple questions. Okay, let's do some questions.
Oh, just comments, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so when we look at this quilt, let's look at the different rows and what we've made in the row. Because in this one, you see the star and you think, oh, I'm going to have to make a bunch of those flying geese. But when your stars are touching like this, you don't want 2 flying geese here. You want to do an option 1. So it'll make it so much easier and faster. So in this row, we just have a plain square that's the same size as your option 1.
Move it up. I can't see that. I can see the one beat.
Okay, I want them to see the whole quilt, so back out. They need to see the whole quilt.
Okay.
Okay, so in this row here, you can see the plain square, the option 1, the square and a square, plain square, option 1, and those just alternate in the row. Now in the next row, look how you can see a plain square that's a different color and the option 1s, and see how they're not, an option 1 is not sewn to an option 1, they're sewn to the plain square. But look how we use just a rectangle and a flying goose on the end, and now your stars start to pop out. So this one was not made by making this star and this star and this star and putting them together. This quilt was put together in rows, and when you do it like that, you have less seams, less opportunities for human errors. So by learning the system and the way that we look at quilts and put them together, you can really help to set yourself up for success. Now, without having a seam here because of 2 flying geese, we have removed a cutting, a sewing, and a pressing, 3 human elements. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of those where you've removed the human element with 3 opportunities, just by doing this as an option 1 instead of 2 flying geese, we have removed 36 opportunities to mess this quilt up. So by using the options in the right place and looking at quilts differently, you really can help increase your speed and accuracy that way also. So this one is called Constellation, and it is in the Quick and Easy book that comes with the original ruler. Any questions? Oh, let's look at our charts in our book for option 3. Now, when we look at a flying goose, and it has a raw edge on it, which is the cut size, then let's just play like this one is 2.5 this away, and this away it's going to be 4.5. So that would be a cut or that raw edge. So when you sew this into a quilt, then this is going to back down to a 2 by a 4. So it's a 2 by 4 flying goose sewn. And when you look at your charts, you have to know, are we talking about a cut raw edge size, or are we talking about a sewn size? So when you go back to page 34 in your book again, think about all the quilts that have flying geese in them and how beautiful they are, and you start looking, you see the quilt, you think, oh, that's so pretty, I want to make that, and then you start looking at it and you think, oh my gosh, it's got all of those flying geese in it, I don't want to mess with that many flying geese. But look how nice and clean your flying goose is. It's not difficult to do with the method. So come over to your chart, and at the top it says what's the sewn size you're looking for. Find it on your chart and just move across horizontally, and it's going to tell you what size to cut this square in the middle and what size to cut your strips, just like it did on the other ones. So if I wanted a 2 by 4 flying goose, so here is my little basic square. So in the center, my center square would be 3 3/4 cut, and my strips would be 2 1/4 on the width, and that would be cut. And when I would get this sewn together and trimmed up, I would have a flying goose that is a 2 by 4 sewn, or with the raw edges, it would be a 2.5 by 4.5. So once you look at your pattern and you decide what size of flying goose you need, you just come over here to the charts, and it'll tell you what sizes you need for your basic squares so that they turn out the size you need them to be when you finish up with them. So all of the charts are just that easy, and in your reference book you go all the way from page 34, I think past page 45. There's just lots and lots of charts, and the patterns start in I think on page 48. Yeah, even how to figure your fabric if you want to do that. So lots and lots of info, and then of course it's going to have your patterns in here, and they will even be broke down into multiple block sizes. So if you want a different size of block than what the pattern was, then, you know, for this one that we did, it maybe was a 10-inch or something, and here is an 8-inch and a 12-inch. So it's got different sizes of patterns in there for you, and this is the Square and Square Technique Reference Book, Volume 1, and it's going to do all of the options 1 through 17, and those all start out with a square in the middle. Do we have some questions? Okay. Not yet. Okay. If you have any questions, just jump in there and ask.
And we're seeing them just on the Facebook. I mean on the YouTube. But the questions.
The questions. Okay, so the only questions we're seeing are the ones that are coming in on YouTube. So if you have questions, they can text them to the 817 number.
You want to give it again?
Yeah, that you can also text to 817-713-2879. So if you've asked a question and it wasn't on YouTube, because this is streaming on YouTube and Facebook and in the webinar format, and the YouTube is the only one that is showing us the questions. So text your question to 817-713-2879, and we can answer your question here in our live format. Would love to do that. Okay, so the next one, half square triangles. Once again, love half square triangles. Love, love, love them. But there is a lot of process to go through to get a half square triangle. There's a lot of different methods out there, and some of them have a lot of prep work, and some of them you have to cut papers and trim papers and sew on papers. I just want to work with my fabric. I want to sit down and sew. I want to be able to cut new fabric or work with my scraps and just get going. So I love this for my half square triangles. So just like on the flying geese where we trim two sides right up to the tip, we're going to do that on all four corners. Remember on the flying geese we did it on two opposite. We did it on the two opposite corners. And so now we're going to do it on all four. So you've seen how to trim leaving the fourth. You've seen how to trim right up to the tip. So we're just going to repeat that right up to the tip, doing the two-step on all 4 corners. And I love it that I have one tool, I have one ruler that makes every size, and it makes every different triangle unit. I don't have to learn different methods to make different units. I don't have to buy different tools to make different units or even different sizes. And once again, make sure you're keeping it square as you go around. So this is what it looks like when you have it all trimmed up. And anytime you trim up to the tip, that means that you're going to cut through. See, we trimmed it up to the tip here and we cut through there. So we're going to cut through. So that texting number, 817-713-2879. And there I've cut both directions through my block. And watch. Look at those 4 beautiful half square triangles that come out just by doing the square and a square method. So let's see what we've got in our book here, in our basic book. So here you can see we did a basic square and the option 1, and we put that on that page. Then we did an option 2. Then we showed how to trim it like this, and then we showed another one with it cut. And this book helps you learn the options, and then it helps you come back to the options when you need. So here you can see right up to the tip on all 4, and cut, and you have your half square triangles. Now, this one here, I have 2 different books. One that I did in a demo with you guys a couple of years ago, and then this is my demo book that I've had for years and years. So I've made some samples to go in here. You can see the Ohio Star with the option 3, and this one is really a cool one. This one is in the reference book, and we've just used the option 1s in there with plain squares and then some flying geese, and it makes this beautiful little block. This was one of the very first patterns that I did with square and a square, and I just loved it that I could get a complex looking block that normally would be difficult to make, but was just so easy and simple, and actually a beginner quilt with square and a square. And then, of course, my traditional flying geese all going together in a row. And then here with the half square triangles, they're in just about every quilt that you make. Here you can see them with a bear paw or with the Milky Way star, in a churn dash, borders, pinwheels, flying geese, half square triangles, option 1. They make almost every quilt. Now the next one is option 5, and it's put anything in the middle. So instead of having a plain square in the middle, you can put a pieced unit in the middle. So look at putting a 9 patch in the middle, or a pinwheel in the middle, or a 4 patch. And if you do a 4 patch in the middle, it's the beginning of your snail's tails. And on this one, we put, always got strings, don't we? We put 3 flying geese in the middle, which made a rectangle. And we put the strips on the side and trimmed, leaving the 1/4 of an inch on all 4 corners. And look at this design here. Look how you put 4 of these together. So here you can see the points going out. So see the point going out and put 4 of them together. You can put the points coming in. And if you do these dark, then it looks like a star with all of these radiated points going out, because those points show up instead of the geese if you put the dark there. And it looks like a star with these multiple jags, points coming on it. So much just with color changes the unit to be able to do multiple things. Now, when you put the 9 patch in the middle, we're going to back up just a minute. So here you have the 9 patch in the middle. So this next block, we've made these, and then we put them together like a 9 patch. So that means 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is going to be in there 9 times. So let's look at that block. So here you can see the 9 patch in the middle with the strips on the side, and those are all the same color combo. Different color combo here in the middle, plain squares in the corner, and look at this beautiful star with all this intricateness going on. Now these 9-patch units in here and the 4-patch units, we've used the 4-patch and the 9-patch ruler to make. So let's look at how we use the 4-patch and the 9-patch rulers. So those are 2 different rulers. So let me clean this up just a minute. Do we have any questions, Steve, before we move on?
Making a Lemoyne star, is that with the diamond book?
The Lemoyne star, no, is just, you're just going to use what I've shown you today. You're going to use your option 1, and you're going to use your option 3 flying geese. You're going to use your half square triangles to make a pinwheel. So let's look at that in the reference book. I'm not sure what page it's on. Let me go. I think it's on 119. Let me see. Yeah. Okay, so can you get the camera down on this so they can see this up close? Is this a good spot?
Can you go up a bit?
Right here? Good.
A little bit more.
Okay, well, I want them to see all of this, not just...
Okay.
Okay. So when you look in this particular one, we've got 4 Lemoyne stars together. So with 4 coming together, we can use an option 1. If you were just doing 1, then you would do all flying geese. But look how we've used the flying goose for the outside edges, the pinwheel in the middle, and the option 1 in between, just some plain squares and a rectangle. And you're going to get your Lemoyne star look. This is very similar to what you would do with a that hunter star that everybody always had so many questions about the hunter star. I think I have it here in the back of this one. Let's see if the hunter star... So this one is a great one here. While we're doing half square triangles, I think my hunter star is here in this stack. So when you look at this, you see all of this and you think, wow, that's really a pretty scrappy quilt. And it kind of makes a little spool shape here, if you can see it. Really cool spool. But when I break it down into the squares, it's just 4 half square triangles in the corners and a large half square triangle in between. So just option 4's half square triangles in 2 different sizes makes this beautiful block and makes it very easy to do. So here you can see where we drew it out. And this is just how you would do your pattern adapting. And I was sure oh, I pulled it out because I wanted everybody to see it. So I didn't want to have to fuss with going to the book. Okay. So for the hunter star, like you see here, it's just going to be the same thing. You can do, here you can see how we have 4 half square triangles in these corners, and you have plain squares in the corner, and it will make that hunter star design. You can also do some half square triangles in there if you want to kind of spice it up a little bit. So all of these are hunter stars, and they're just half square triangles. And here is one that's in multiple colors. So half square triangles, 2 sets of patches for them, and then plain squares. So really a beautiful one that is very easy to do with the square and a square system. Okay, do we have another question?
It has to do with the tumbling block.
Okay, tumbling block.
Do you have enough option 1s to show how to...
No, but I can draw it.
How they set up?
I'll draw it.
Okay.
Okay, so when you do the tumbling blocks, you're going to do all option 1s, just like this. So this is going to be a row of option 1s, and this is going to be a row of option 1s. So I'm just going to go ahead and make, whoops, no. Let me start over again. Okay, So this is a row of option 1s. Okay, now this is the seam on this row right here. See, these are where the seams are of your option 1s coming together. So when we do the next row, we want the option 1. See how the center of the option 1 on the row below it and above it will match up with that seam. So on these rows, you have a flying goose on the end of it. So you'll have one row that's all option 1s and another row that has a flying goose on the end. And you want to make sure that the center on here goes through the seam of the one above it and below it. And let me see if in the book if there's a picture that's good enough for you to see on the screen. You have another question? Okay, so here's our In the Garden with Tumbling Blocks. And it's going to show you how to get all of your colors in the right location. And that was really easy. I think there was just 4 different ones that you had to make. So let's look at the rows here. Can you see this? Is this a good spot? How's that? Okay, so when you see this one is a row that's all option 1s. And so you can see how that seam right there is going to go through the center of the one above it and below it. And you have flying geese on the ends of the other end. And then you can see how you get that depth, and it looks like tumbling blocks. I know I'm going through all of these really fast. I want you to be able to see just the wide variety and the versatility of the system and how easy it is to just adapt every pattern and idea and design over to the system. And remember, anytime you have questions or need help, you can always email us, or you can just use this text number. Even on Saturday, if you're making something and you need help, you can use this text number. It's much easier for me to keep those questions sifted out and sorted out and not have to try to go to all the different locations on Facebook and find stuff, or sort through all the different stuff on the emails. I can just go straight to that dedicated text number, and I can look at the pictures you're sending me, the questions, whatever it is that you need help with. I'm here to educate you, make your quilting life fun, make this wintertime when you're stuck at home more exciting. And that's one reason why we're doing these Wednesday webinars, is we want to teach you, educate you, and make life a little bit more fun and exciting when we don't have the opportunity to do all the things that we normally would do. More questions?
Can you use the grande to do the option 1?
Yes.
Or flying geese?
Yes. The grande ruler will do any of the units that are 1 through 17. So when you look at the grande, and there's a great video for the grande, it's like 8 minutes long. It's on the Square and a Square Facebook page, and it's probably just a couple of posts back, so you don't even have to look for it. You can go in there and see it.
If you look at the product on squareandsquare.com, there's a video there too.
Okay, so when you just go to the website, squareandsquare.com, you can look for the grande ruler, and you can see a video right there too.
It's in the description.
It's in the description of it. But when I look at it, I can see the name here, and down here where the blue lines come together, that's the 90 right there. And the grande ruler was actually designed because of this red line right here, and people needed more help on how to cut a diamond. And you can use the original ruler for it, but you had to decide which line, and people were having difficulty with that. And so I thought, well, how can I make a ruler where I can help them to cut the diamonds and make it more simple, but also I wanted to just add, I always want to add as much to my rulers as I can so that they do lots of different things. I don't want you to have just a piece of plastic that does one thing. So we put the 9-inch corner square on it so you can cut squares. You can cut your strips. It's got all the way up to the 1/8 of an inch markings. You can cut the first options 1 through 17 with it, and then you can go in and cut these center diamonds. So That's what the Grande does, and it came out about a year ago.
So where's the two-step on the Grande?
The two-step on the Grande, there's only one place for it, and right here where this blue line falls off the edge of the ruler, that tip right there at the 5-inch mark, that's your two-step. You only got one to pick from.
Okay.
Okay?
Very good. I think that's.
Are we caught up on questions?
I think so.
Okay, so we're going to jump over here, and we're going to do some, I've got a couple of, let's see where we're at. Let's get caught up on our quilts. Okay, so this one here is just a mini little star. I love these little stars. These little pieces I cut off that were pretty tiny. You can use those and go in and make these tiny little flying geese and just use your scraps. And then I did just one simple strip around each one. It's like a log cabin. So I always say make a star and log cabinet, meaning you're just going to sew around it one time. And just a really cute little simple quilt just made from scraps here. And this one is probably in the mini ruler book. So all of the rulers have little books that come with them that have ideas and designs, and I'm pretty sure that one's in the mini ruler book. And you saw the train one up here with the, this is the Americana using the flying geese. And then this one also uses the Transcontinental Railroad fabric. Just both of these last two quilts I think are just so beautiful. The fabrics are just so, the colors are so deep and rich. It's just so nice and elegant. Now this one, the block is put on point. But if you could kind of look at it horizontal, it's really very easy. You just have your top row plain square with half square triangles. And those are on all four sides. And then a big option one is in the middle. So really a beautiful block and very, very easy to make. And the block just put on point. And then when we were doing the side triangles, the setting triangles, we did those in color. So it makes the border come out into actually the main body of the quilt. And it gives you more depth and design and another border on the outside edge when you do that. Question? Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Okay. Now this little quilt here behind me is one that we just finished working on. And if you want, there are some projects that we're working on that are paid webinar classes like you're seeing here today, but we go in and do in detail on a certain quilt. And this one was called Welcome Home, and we just finished it this week. If you want to do the Welcome Home quilt, it's $50, and that's for all of your video teaching. And I don't know how many hours there are, but lots of hours of teaching on it. And that's also your pattern. If you want to do the Welcome Home and you're not Premium Club, then that's how you would get it. If you want to become a Premium Club member, you can just email us at steve@squareandasquare.com, and we'll send you all the different information on the Premium Club. It's a dedicated teaching website, and there's a Premium Club Facebook page. You have to be a member of Premium Club to be a part of that Facebook page, and that's where all of our teachings go, and that's where all of our different new teachings for new quilts and new projects are in there. So this one is Welcome Home, and they've had so much fun and learned so much putting it together. And we just have some house blocks, some churches, some schools. We had just some little simple appliques. So they really learned a lot in here because each block gives you the different opportunity to learn different things. So we use the flying geese here for the trees. We've used the flying geese here for the top of the windows. We're going to get to these long, thin ones here in a minute with the diamonds. This unit here with the square and the two blue triangles and the bigger one, this is what we call an option 11. And you're going to get all four of those from one square and sewing around it twice. Even these beautiful kind of circle looking orbs of blocks they learned them and they were just amazing with what they did with it. So we're going to skip real quick over to the 4-patch and 9-patch rulers. Now, one of the main questions with a 4-patch and 9-patch ruler is, does the 4-patch ruler make 9 patches? No. Does the 9-patch ruler make the 4-patch? No. But the rulers make every size of a 9-patch or every size of a 4-patch. And of course they have the little books with patterns and designs in them for you. So let's look at the 4-patch first. And I want to show you the lines on here. So this is what we call the cross-cut 4-patch ruler. And what it does is it helps you make 4 patches, and it gives you all of that speed and accuracy. So let's look at this one that we had up first. So this quilt uses 3 different elements. It has a plain square, it has a split rail, so that means there's 3 rectangles right here in this unit, and that row alternates. This is called the Road to Nowhere pattern, and this is the dirt floral. This is our new dirt floral that's on sale right now, and you can get it as a kit, or you can just order the individual fabrics. And then here you can see that same split rail going horizontal, and then the 4-patch unit. And so when you want to make a 4-patch, so many times you get like 2 patches. I'm trying to see where my fabrics are. Okay, so usually when you make a 4-patch, you either cut 4 squares and put them together and try to get them all to be the same size and match up, or you'll put 2 strips together for strip piecing and then come in here and cross cut these to get your patches. So the ruler is a design tool as well as a cutting tool. So if you know the size of 4-patch that you want, this right here says the cut size of your sewn patches. So these numbers here tell you what size is. So every 1/4 of an inch, I think, no, every 1/2 of an inch, you can have a different size. So let's say that you want a 7-inch cut 4-patch. That's kind of hard to figure. But if you come to your number here that you're wanting and back over here to these numbers and these words tell you the size of strip. So if you have a strip that's 3 3/4, you're going to get a 7-inch cut 4-patch unit. So they're design tools as well as cutting. Let's say that you have a jelly roll that's 2 1/2 and you want to know what size of 4-patch. Come in here and find the width of your strip, 2 1/2, and follow around, and it tells you that the cut size is going to be 4 1/2. Now when I use it to trim my my strip into my units, I'm going to put this heavy grid line here on the seam, and then depending on the size, it will fit inside the rectangle here, depending on little, up, and too big. And what it does is it tells me immediately if all of the different areas are what they should be. So when I put the heavy grid line here on my seam and I push it into the rectangle, I can tell that this one is a little bit short here and this one is a little bit short here. So when I cut these and I get ready to put them together, I won't, you normally you go in and just cut, and then you start picking these up and you don't know, okay, is this one the good one that's a little bit too big and the one that's too short? Is it the one that's too short, meaning it won't work? Or is the short one? So it can be very confusing when you get ready to start sewing your pieces together because you don't know which one's good and which one's bad. So the ruler tells you right immediately when you trim it which ones are what I call good, bad, or ugly. So, and it also keeps this straight because you know that every 3 or 4 cuts you've got to come in here and do another trim cut, cleanup cut. So when I put it on here, if it's, I can know, okay, I have a good stack, I have a stack that is a fudgeable stack, and then I have a stack that's too short that's not going to work. So this one's just a little bit, so I would put it in the fudgeable stack. Because if it's way short, too short, then I know it's going to start causing me trouble. So it's starting to get pretty short right here. It's looks like about 1/8 of an inch, because when you sew these long strips together, not every one of those in that whole strip is going to be good. You're going to have sections that's too skinny. And so when you go in here and make your cut, you know, good, fudgeable, or what I call doesn't play well with others. Now, when you do the 9-patch ruler, it works similar, but you're going to have 3 strips of fabric for a 9-patch instead of 2. Same thing when you use it as a design tool. These numbers here are the cut size of your 9-patch. These numbers here are the cut size of your strip. So let's say, once again, you have a jelly roll 2.5. Just stay in the little edge and come around, and it tells you what size of 9-patch you'll get for a cut size using that width of strip. Maybe you know you need a 11-inch 9-patch. That's kind of hard to figure in your head. So just come on around and over here, and it tells you what size of strip that you need to make that 9-patch. Now when you use it to trim, you're going to have your heavy grid line. Your heavy grid line is going to be on the top seam, and these stair step lines will be at the bottom, because once again it makes lots of different sizes, and it'll fit into the rectangle. So before we cut, let's put it, I think you can see it on the whiteboard. Good. So here is the heavy grid line on the seam, stair step line on the seam, push it into the rectangle, and immediately I know, are all 4 sides good here? Are all 4 sides good here? I can see I'm starting to get just a little bit skinny on this inside strip. Is that fudgeable? Can I get it to work? Or is it going to mess up my 9-patch? Because if you don't have these inside seams where you want them to be, you're not going to get your nice sharp and crisp points in here when you get ready to sew your 9-patch together, because your fabric will be too far one direction or the other. And once again, you'll make your cut, it stays square, and you just keep moving into your quilt. Make your stack again, good one, fudgeable one, you know, or too short, too skinny. You know what you can work with. And if you may have a whole section in there that's not good. I just, like, if this one is starting to get off a little bit, I can tell. And here, I can tell that it's not working. I can just kind of slide it down and see, okay, right here it starts getting better. So I may take this whole section and just set it aside and start where it's going to be good, and not cutting all of this up. I can just slide it on down to where my work gets better again. So hopefully that helps you with the 4-patch and 9-patch. And because whatever you put in the middle of your square, you want it to be as nice and accurate as possible, because if you don't start out with it good in the middle, it's just going to continue to advance out. Now on this one, you can see how it's hanging off here. So obviously when I went and did my cuts, these were too big. So I know that this one was good. This one is not too short. These are the ones that were too big, because when I used my ruler, I had the different stacks. And so when I picked these up to sew them together, I knew all of them would work. When they're too short, they're not going to work. But if they're bigger, they will work, and you can just go back in and trim them up. So normally you would pick it up, and with this much you would say, oh, this one's too short, and you're going to throw it out, when really it's the good one and this one's just too big. So it helps keep you organized with your pieces. So here's a 4-patch one in the middle, a 9-patch one. Here's your 4-patch in the middle. We sew around it 1 time, 2 times, and that's your snail's tail, and that's also in your black book, your reference book. And then oh, it must be in here, my other 9-patch one I wanted to show you. Can't find mine. It's amazing how things disappear. Oh well, I showed you the block with the 9-patch in it. There it is. I thought it was in this book. Okay, so here again you can see the 9-patch in there. We used the 9-patch ruler, put the strips on it, and trimmed it up to get the block. Okay, we're going to move on to the diamonds. Do we have any questions before we move on? Okay, let me organize this real quick. And I showed you all of the quilts. Okay. Okay, so this is your square and square reference book, and it's the one that's going to teach the square in the middle, and those are options 1 through 17. And this new one here is your diamond book, and it's what we call the reference book volume 2, and it's what teaches the diamond in the middle and how you start out with the same thing. See how you had a square with strips, now we have a diamond. And we're going to use your same rulers, your same square and square rulers. So that means your grande will cut the diamond in the middle, and your original or your mini is what you're going to use to trim your diamonds up. They have the 60s and the 120s on it, which these are the 60s and these are the 120s. So the original is the one that we recommend to get going. You can use the original to cut your diamond in the middle, but once again, you have a lot of lines to look at. So if you were going to cut this diamond in the middle, you could use any of these 60 lines. So you would take your strip and do a cleanup cut, and then put your 60 on here. And you'd have to decide you're going to use the top one or the bottom one. And then you come in here and cut your width out of it the same as what this is. So if this was a 4-inch here, you've got to cut a 4-inch here, and so you have to go half 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, and keep it on your line to, actually I think it must be a 5, because there we go. It's a 4.5. So there you go. So you would make your cut like that to get your diamond shape. With the grande ruler, you just put your red line on there. There's only one to pick from. And you come in here and look 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And make your cut to get your grande. To get your diamond with the grande. So there's just one line to look at. Makes it a little bit more simple. You can use the original also to make that diamond cut in the middle. So after you have your diamond, you're just going to surround it with strips, just like we did the square. And then when you get ready to come in here and trim it, just like we had option 1 with the square, and we left the 1/4 of an inch on all 4 corners, you're going to do that with your diamond. So let's come in here and trim this one up. So there's 3 main units with the square, meaning the main ways that you trim. And there's actually 4 with the diamond. You have 4 main cuts. So here we left the 1/4 of an inch on all 4, and we're going to leave the 1/4 of an inch on all 4. Here we left the 1/4 of an inch and trimmed it appropriately to get the point where we wanted it to be, and on this one the 2-step, and then we did the 2-step on all 4 because we're cutting both directions. So to get the very first diamond shape, and I'm going to use the original, my 60 is going up here in the corner just like this, and I'm going to trim the 260 corners. And then when you look at your ruler, you have a 120 with a 1/4, and then down here at the bottom you have a 120 with an 1/8. So you want to make sure that you use the 1/4, because you want a 1/4 of an inch on all 4 corners because you're not cutting it up. Now these are nice and big. I'd save those for some of my scrap pieces that I work on. So there's my option 1, where I left a 1/4 of an inch on all 4 corners. Now before I show you some of the other diamond shapes, I want you to see two quilts that I have for you here. So this one is the Storm at Sea. It's got some beautiful blue batiks in it. Let's just put it down here on the demo table. Can they see all of that?
Let me back out. Yeah.
Got it? Okay. So let's look at our row of blocks and let's see what we have. So in this row here, we have the option 7 diamond, just like this. And here we have an option 2. So we have the square in the middle, sew strips around it 1 time, 2 times, option 2, option 7, option 2, option 7. And so that row just alternates between those two options. Now in the next row, we have the same option 7, and it's just going horizontal with an option 1. And those two just repeat on. And the rows just alternate. And when you get those all put together, that is your Storm at Sea. So a Storm at Sea doesn't have to be difficult. It looks hard, but the square and a square system just breaks it down easy. And I want you to look in the borders. This is an option 7. And we just put them end to end to make our option 7. Now I also want you to notice on this quilt, so that these diamonds fit on here the way that we want them to. Look how at the top and the bottom of the quilt we have a skinny little blue border. And on the sides of the quilt we have a wider border. So these are what we call frames or spacers, and they help create the quilt to be the size we want it to be so that it's easier to work with the different units that are going on the side. You are in control of the quilt. Don't let the quilt boss you. You can say, okay, I want you to be wider this side so that these fit. And I only need you to be a little bit bigger here at the top and bottom so that these fit on there. So I'm going to hold it up, Steve, if you want to get a front shot.
Yeah. Good. Screenshot it if you want it at home.
Yeah, I'll just take a screenshot.
Okay.
And the Storm at Sea quilt is actually in your Volume 1 reference book. At the end of each book, I always like to do some pattern or some design that shows you what the next step is of learning about, you know, how you can move on from the square, you can move on to the diamonds. Now this one is really a fun one too. It's just the option 7 with some plain squares. So here you can see the option 7. The black square was our diamond in the middle, the green and the orange with the strips. This is a little option 7, horizontal with squares, and that's what's in that row. And then the next row you can see it vertical, the diamond, the option 7, and just a bigger square. So think about this in the Storm at Sea. This was an option 1 with the diamonds laying down and with the diamond standing up. This was an option 2. So all we did was just put in a solid square or put in an option 1, option 2. So this actually, this setup like this with the Storm at Sea can actually be a setting for a quilt. So you can take any block that you want, you know, whether it's a 12-inch block or whatever, and you can put those in for the bigger blocks and then use your plain squares, and you could do another little star in here if you wanted to, but look how you have them. Look at the setting of it or the basics of it, and think about what you could do to alternate different things in the middle. So these could be your main squares, say 12-inch blocks, 10-inch blocks, whatever, and this is your sashing or your setting for the block. And so doing your colors just right, you would have this secondary design going on with your blocks, your main blocks for the quilt. And that's something that we're going to be teaching on into this spring, because we have the block of the week quilt, which is actually going to start next week. So we have 12 blocks, and then when those 12 weeks are over and we've taught all 12 blocks, we have a setting for you with the quilt, but we're going to go in and teach different settings so that you can take any block anywhere and make it a really unique, beautiful masterpiece of a quilt by just the way that you set it together, which is really what makes a lot of quilts really special, is the setting of them, not necessarily the blocks. Okay, so with the square, we cut it in half to get flying geese. So with the diamond, we're going to cut it in half, and we're going to get what we call Canadian geese, because instead of the 45-degree wingspan on a flying goose, we're now going to have this really sharp angle here for these long, thin points. Now, we trimmed 1/4 of an inch here and here and went right up to the tip. So we're going to leave the 1/4 of an inch here and here, but we're going to trim these corners different. It's not a 1/4, and it's not sharp. It's actually in between. And the magic that we need to do on it is done with the 120 with an 1/8. So let's take this unit and let's go in here and use the 120 with an 1/8. Now, it doesn't change your seam allowance size. It's just moving the points and creating a point in a seam allowance where you didn't have one. So now with these two corners trimmed different appropriately so that we can get sharp points when we sew it into our next work. Now we're going to cut it in half just like we did there, and you have what we call the Canadian geese, the long, thin wingspan or points. And see how you can put them together to make your star. And I'm not sure which book it's in. Let me look here. This one. I love this one. Look how we've put 2 of them together to make these little corner units, and just did a really pretty star and really easy with the option 18. So you would put 2 together like this in a plain square, and then put your sashing or whatever you want to separate it with, and put 4 of those together and have your block. You can also do your like flying geese. And let's look up here in Welcome Home, and let's look and see where we've used option 18. So we've used it in these little star points here. We used it in the top of the church, in the rooftop of the church. And we didn't use it in any of our trees, but you can also use them for trees to get different shapes and angles for your trees. I don't think we used it over here except with our points here in the star. And just like the black book had the charts for the squares, you've got the charts in here, just all kinds of charts in here to help you with your sizing. And I love, like, when you take okay, so if you're going to make a star, so of course you'd have all 4 sides. Can you see all of this page? Okay, so if you have your star with your points going out like you do here, once again, look how you can change the corners and change the center to get different looks. So you can see plain corners, half square triangles, 4 patches. In the centers you can see option 1s or 4 patches. But look, see, these have the points going out. Look what happens when you flip them and the points go in. Instead of an 8-pointed star, you would get a 4-pointed star. So you can do points out, points in, change the corners, change the center. And one of the things that this book does, it starts in with a little 2-inch star and works its way up to the bigger ones. And it shows you all the different look, and it gives you the information you need for that size that you're working with. And it's got all your charts, and it's got different quilts and patterns and blocks in the back of it. So let's look at this quilt. And it uses that star. And it has a cool setting on it, which creates another design. So here you can see the red and the green stars with the points going out, plain corners, double 4 patches in the middle. And look at the sashing and the setting, how we use those option 18s, and just switch the color up a little bit and see how the points go in, and you get that nice 4-pointed star. So you get double design. And this one is called Postage Stamp Star, and this is a kit that we have on the website, and it's a pattern that's in your diamond book. Okay. Now on the, oops, I knew it was going to do that. Okay. Now on this next one, we're going to take the one where you leave the 1/4 of an inch on all 4 sides, and we're going to cut it like an X. And I think this is number 23. I'm not positive. I think it is. Or 25. 25, yeah. Okay, so we're going to cut it like an X. And I want you to look at the 2 different shapes you're going to get. So you get what we call the long-legged ladies, and then the shorter, wider ones. Now look how you can put these together for a border like this, and look how easy it is to turn that mitered corner and go back down the other side, and see how that diamond would stand up and be vertical all the way around your quilt. So these would go at the top and the bottom of your quilt, and these would go on the side. Now some of these other ones I'm going to show you is we took 3 of these and put them together to make this little half moon, and some of these we're going to put together like this to make some of these kind of spinning and swirling.
Can you move your ruler?
Yeah, is it glaring? Okay. All right, so let's look at these up here. So this one is a hexy star, and we put 3 of these together, so you can see 1, 2, 3, and see how the star points up. And then on the next one, the star points down, and we did 3. So you just keep putting these together, just a straight seam, and make a row. Then when you make your next row, you connect your colors, start your next color, and when you get to the end of your row, you're going to use this in here. And the way that we put this one on, this is not, we don't do this as a set-in seam. We're going to sew it here to complete this row. And when you come in and sew this, then you just turn that little corner and go down, and it makes them really smooth and flat and go in there. And this is a video that's already on YouTube. Go and look for the Hexy Star, and you're going to see how to do this one. And this one is called Buzzsaw, and it's just let's look down here at the table, Steve. It's just these put together like that, and there's your buzzsaw there. And then they're squared up. And this one is Hurricane. And we put what we call extenders on that little buzz saw. And it's quilted just beautifully, so it's really a heavy quilt. Can you see this green one here, Steve?
Perfect.
Okay, so let me grab our piece. So let's look at one block. Okay, so when you look at one, you see this right here, just like this. And this is a strip that we sew on the side. And then here it is again, and this is a strip that we sew on the side. And here it is again, and this is a strip. So these are going to have a strip sewn on the side. And then you're going to sew that long row and this one and this one. And then you just come in here and square it up to get that block. And then you put 4 of those together, and you have your Hurricane star. Now I want you to notice how it turns to the left, and that's how a hurricane does. It turns to the left. You get this really cool in the middle. These come together to make that one in the middle. So you could work it out with your colors to make this one color and this another. You'd have to sit down and think about what you're doing, but you could. And then we've taken them without the extenders and put them together here for the buzzsaw, which is the setting. And also you can see the buzzsaw up here with the setting. So on these 3 quilts, you get all 3 of these in the hurricane pattern. And these are the quilts. When I made all of my pieces for my hurricane, I put my hurricane together. Then I took my leftovers and made my hexie star here. And then I took my leftovers, and of course I used some for my settings in my hurricane, and then I put the other ones together just like that for my buzzsaw. So these all come together. You're going to have all of the pieces for all of them on there. Now the last quilt, so if you have any questions, get them in, because we're just about done. I'm going to show you one more quilt and then tell you about the block of the week. So if you were on my Facebook page, Square and a Square, you saw a picture today that I posted that has a quilt on my dining room table. It's an old antique quilt. It's kind of wore out in the middle. The quilt's really in great shape, except for right in the middle and a little bit around the edges. And I looked at that design and I was like, how can I take that design from that old quilt and do it with the Square in a Square? And so that's what I did for this one, and it's called Abby's Wedding Quilt. And of course it's a kit and a pattern or kit, whatever you want to do, on the website. So here we've, this unit right here is what we're going to get from the diamond shape. And we've used it in the 4 corners with kind of a spacing and the star with those long points. We've used those same ones here for the kind of a crocodile sashing. And then where the block comes together, can you see it clear over here? No? Okay, let me switch it. Where the blocks actually come together, you get this really cool, which to me is the focus area of the quilt. Where the 4 blocks come together, then you have all of this. And it looks like a really difficult quilt to make, but the Square and a Square system just simplifies everything and makes it all achievable for everybody to do. And one of the cool things is that now with technology, I don't have to just pick a group of 30, go to a quilt guild and teach just 30 people. I can teach multiple people and teach multiple days. And so with the technology that we have nowadays. So I'm excited about our Wednesday webinars where we're going to be doing different things like this. I may take one quilt and show you all of the process of one quilt, or I may do kind of a conglomerate of things like I have today. So this is kind of like our first Wednesday webinar. We did, we did something last week for our Wednesday webinars. I don't remember what it was.
I think this is the 4th or 5th this year.
Well, so we've had them every time this year, but we just finished with our welcome home and on Monday, and so this is our Wednesday webinar here. So I wanted to do an overview of the books and the products and kind of tell you what we're doing so that you can jump in here and join us on our free Wednesday webinars. Also, if you want information about the Premium Club, you can just email us at steve@squareandasquare.com, and he'll send you all the different information about the Premium Club if you want the subscription. It's a really fun group of quilters that are very active on the Facebook page. They're constantly showing their blocks and things that they're doing. And then on our Wednesday webinars, keep joining us. Now that if you're watching today, you've signed up for it, you'll get a reminder for next week, and you don't have to do any sign up stuff. You're in for all of the different free ones that we do all year. Now on starting on Mondays, we're going to start doing our block of the week. And if you're new to Square and a Square, it's a great place to start with our block of the week, because we take one block and we show you in detail all the different trimmings and cuttings and talk about colors and just really in depth on that one block. And you can use your stash at home, or you can get a kit. We're cutting kits for it now. And it's a really great way. Today I really put a lot out here, but it's a great way to take it in a slow format and learn the options and learn them in order, and just help get them all synced down in your brain. And so we have a great group that's already signed up for the block of the week. And of course, since we're doing it online, we have room for you. It's not like we can only take 20 quilters or whatever. We can take as many as want to be a part. So we're using our new fabrics. These are the, you can order a blue floral kit with the blue. This is the dirt. And then my sample quilt, we've used the red. And mostly the inside part of the quilt is all the same. So when you order the blue or the red, it means that that's what your border will be. Your border will be the red or the blue. And you can see the beautiful blocks that we're going to make. So in this one here, we're going to learn our flying geese, which are the outside red points of it. And then this beautiful block inside here is an option 11. And we're going to get all 4 of those out of one red square that we're going to start with. And we're going to sew around it one time with the dirt, and then another time like an option 2 with the black. And then we're going to cut it into the 4 and have all of these. And then we'll have our flying geese for the outside edge. And then we'll give you the setting information if you want to set it with these stars like we have here. Or you can wait after we're done with the 12 weeks of blocks. We're going to go in and talk about different settings, like the setting here in the Abby's wedding quilt. We're going to do the setting here and just go into depth about settings, because really, you know, you can pick any blocks that you want to make. You know, when you're thinking about all the quilts and all the patterns, but what makes the quilt unique and beautiful and different is the different ways that you set it together, that make different designs and different colors and stuff pop out. So we're going to go in depth on those settings, and I'm really excited about being able to do that, because it's easy to do and it's very fun, and it just really helps expand your quilt knowledge to not just make blocks, but to think about how to set all these blocks together. You probably have stacks of blocks from other block of the months that you would love to know how to put those together to make a beautiful quilt, and not just a sampler with 12 blocks in it, but make it really special. So do we have any last minute questions? Remember, our fabric sale goes until January 20th, and we have free shipping on a $150 order. So if you've got books and rulers that you want to do, make sure you get in there and get in on that free shipping. We don't do that very often. Offer that.
I have a question about, can you explain the difference between the original ruler and the grande?
Okay, you want to know the difference between the original and the grande. Yes, let's do that. If you have other questions, get them in. It's nice to do them in a format like this. And you can always text your questions, remember. But if you have the question, somebody else probably does too. So. Okay. So can you see all of this? And is there a glare?
Glare on your red book.
Okay. Let's move those out of the way. Okay. Are we good now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the grande ruler. You can see how it's grande. It's bigger, it's wider, and it's longer than the original. The original has the 1/2 inch marks on here, so you could cut a 2-inch strip or do a 2-inch square, but it's a little bit harder to read to do that. So look at the grande, how it looks more like a normal ruler, and so it's very easy to come in here and cut just plain squares or strips. And of course, that's what we always do. We want our strips for our 4 patches and 9 patches. We want our plain squares for our options. And so it's very good to help you with your squares and your strips. It has a 9-inch corner square on it, so you can go up to a 9-inch unit in here and trim them all up nice and neat as you're working on a block. You may have 4-inch corners, and so you've got your 4-inch nice square possibilities and on there. Now, the reason why the ruler was made was because people needed help making the diamond that goes in the middle. So we knew we wanted a ruler that was big enough to go into making large diamonds, any size of diamonds, but the larger ones. Because of this width, it was really important because other rulers don't have that. And we wanted to do one line, a color-coded line with the 60 instead of all of these multiple ones here, so that it made it easier to cut the diamond because you only had one line. And so it cuts the center of your diamond. But when we come in here to trim this up to turn it into an option, it doesn't do the diamond options. It does the diamond center, okay? Now, when we do the original ruler, it cuts, because of the angles that are on here, it cuts all of the options, any size for the square, and it cuts all of the options, any size with the diamond. So hopefully that helps you figure out. If you don't have anything, we want you to start with the original. If you're just getting started, we want you to start with the original. And then I didn't use the mini today, but this is the mini one, and I do use it a lot. It's smaller and it has the angles on it just like the original. It has a 4-inch corner square. The Grande has goes up to the 9. And it's very convenient when you're working in a small space or average and smaller pieces. So it cuts the diamonds and it cuts the square. Okay? Some more questions?
Don't think so. What for those that have not that won't get their kits by the time you start the block of the week?
Okay, so we are going to start the block of the week on Monday, and some will have their kits and some won't because we're still in the process of getting it all done. So you can either you can just watch and learn and get prepared, or you can actually make a block from your scraps to make sure you understand what's going on and to learn, and then when you get your kit, then make your block. It's just one block, and it's just on Mondays, just one. So it'll be very easy for you to get your kit and make that other block, and you won't be behind.
And most watch and then work.
Most people watch the video and then make their block. So that's really what we recommend anyway. Okay.
I think that's it.
All right. Any other questions? And we have it's just Steve and I. We don't have a whole big crew or band of others helping us, and so we're working as hard as we can to get the orders out and to get all the fabrics cut and all the kits cut and get it to you. So we're not laying around. We're working every day, all day long, multiple 12-hour days. So it's like Thanksgiving at my sister's pie shop. It's just all work. Anything else? So I hope you've enjoyed it today. I hope you join us for the block of the week. I hope you join us in premium, but be sure and join us for our Wednesday webinars. And you'll get a reminder for next week. And we have lots of different quilts in the process of being made with our new florals. And so probably for the next couple of weeks, each Wednesday will be a new quilt made with our new floral fabrics. And also the Transcontinental Railroad fabrics. We've had the train fabric a little while, but we have, and you can go on the website and you saw a couple of them, 3 today made from the train fabric. But we have just a really beautiful, beautiful one that's just in the last steps of getting the borders on that we're going to make. I don't know that we'll do it next week, Wednesday, but for sure the next one in 2 weeks. Okay? And did we have a last minute question come in?
If you're not in premium, how do you register for block of the week?
If you're not in premium, of course, if you're in premium, the welcome home and the block in the week and all of that is just right there in the portal for you. But if you're not and you want to join welcome home or block of the week, you go to our website and and put in the search bar block of the week and it'll take you straight there. And there's a place there where you can sign up. It's $50, and that's for the video teaching and your pattern. And if you want a kit, then you can order a kit there also. And if you want to use your stash, that's fine too.
Yep.
Okay?
That's it.
Is that it?
On the original ruler, what are the other lines that are on there?
Okay, so on the original ruler, you have the horizontal lines and the vertical lines, and those help you keep your block square as you're trimming it. Like when I was trimming this one today, we used the horizontal and the vertical to help trim. Now with the 90, you saw us use the two that come together, and you saw us use this two-step. Now this is the same ruler I've had for over 30 years, and when I first started, I had 7 options. Now I have 40. And you know what? Your same ruler worked. So as I add more options, your same ruler works. The lines are already on there. And I didn't use all of them today in what we demoed. I just did the very basic beginning. But as you learn more and as I create more, your same ruler works. You don't have to buy another one because the lines are already there. Okay? Yay? Are we done?
I think so.
Okay, thanks for joining me today on January the 13th for our free live Wednesday webinars. And I'll see you for sure next week, or maybe on Monday if you're in our block of the week. Hope you learned a lot. Text any questions, 817-713-2879, and join our Square in a Square Facebook page also. And check out our website, squareinasquare.com. See you later. Perfect Piecing is right here ready for you.